medium. They can be called as mica capacitor, ceramic capacitor, and electrolytic capacitors. And among electrolytic capacitors, there can be two types of supercapacitors: electrical double layer capacitor or electrochemical double layer capacitors, and the other one is redox capacitor or Faraday capacitor. In EDLC or electrochemical double layer capacitors, there are no chemical reactions taking place, no redox reactions taking place, and they are known as non-Faraday capacitors. Materials such as carbon and related carbon materials are the best exploited materials for EDLC applications. Of course, even some oxides which do not undergo redox reactions are also can be used as a EDLC materials. Maybe for example, magnesium oxide, aluminum oxide, etc. But not Faradaic oxides. When I say Faradaic material or Faradaic oxides or sulfides, not transition metal oxides. Most of the transition metal oxides are prone to undergo redox reaction. Nickel oxide, cobalt oxide, iron oxide, copper oxide, etc. They and other transition metal oxides, even cerium oxides, they all undergo redox reaction. Whereas magnesium oxide, aluminum oxide, they don't undergo. So they store the charges based on the charge separation. Whereas in the redox capacitor or Faraday capacitor, the charge or the energy is stored by means of electrochemical redox reaction. There is a definite redox reaction is taking place. Whether it is an oxide, sulfide, hydroxide, or even polymers, conducting polymers, there is a definite redox reaction, reduction oxidation reaction. It need not be oxidation reduction reaction, even sometimes electrosorption, electrochemical adsorption, electrosorption can also drive the redox reactions. So relatively, the charge storage in the Faradaic materials or Faraday capacitors are large compared to the EDLCs. EDLCs, they can give very long cycle life, more than 1 lakh time, because there is no change in the materials composition as well as the structure or volume. So uncomparable cycle life it is possible to obtain for EDLC materials or EDLC capacitors. Whereas redox capacitor or Faraday capacitor, there is a change in the composition. The material composition is changing. Sometimes the material is changing. Nickel hydroxide changes to nickel oxyhydroxide, for example. So eventually there is a change in the volume and there is a change in the structure sometimes or many a times. Hence, cycle life is relatively less compared to the EDLCs. But whether it is the EDLC or redox capacitor, they have comparable cycle life compared to the batteries. In case of batteries, it is only countable number of charging and discharging times. Maybe 1,000 times to 3,000 times in the case of lithium-ion batteries. Whereas supercapacitors can give 10,000 to 1 lakh time charging and discharging cycles. The only problem is they store very little energy or little charge compared to the batteries. Anything else you would like to add from the previous class?
Sir,
Yes, Nafis.
sir, why EDLC cannot match the density of mid-level batteries?
EDLC. Why EDLC cannot give high energy density?
Similar to mid-level batteries, sir.
So it means basically why it can't store more energy.
Sir, why it cannot match the energy density of mid-level batteries? Sir, from one of its disadvantages,
Okay.
it is said that it cannot match the energy density of mid-level batteries. But is there any procedure to match this, sir?
Supercapacitors, whether it is EDLC or redox capacitor, their energy density cannot be matched with that of any of the batteries for that matter. Forget about mid-level, even low-level batteries, even primary energy batteries capacity or energy density cannot be matched with that with the supercapacitors. So the reason is, in the case of EDLC, it is only charge separation. It is only charge separation. So charge separation essentially depends on the surface area. Even the very high surface area carbon materials, which has got a surface area of over 1000, over 2000, the capacitance is somewhere around 400 farads per gram. Just 400 farads per gram. If you translate this into maybe energy density capacity, it will be still very low, very low. But when we have a redox reaction, then this energy density can be little increased, but it is not comparable with that of the batteries. In batteries, we have both anode reaction and cathode reaction. Both gives the charge storage. In case of lithium-ion battery, so lithium-ion is moving between anode and cathode. Cathode gives the lithium and the anode accepts the lithium mutually. Higher the amount of lithium being given by the cathode, higher the amount of lithium being accepted by the anode, higher the capacity you can have it, or energy density you can have it. But in the case of redox capacitor, so if you want to do the similar thing with the capacitors, so it means you have both the electrodes together, same identical electrodes. For example, nickel oxide, symmetric, asymmetric. I'm coming to that after this next class. So you can have two identical electrodes to construct the supercapacitors. The moment you have the identical electrodes, both reaction, I mean the redox reaction should take place in both the electrodes. They compensate. They compensate. So energy density is not matchable with the batteries. Not even forget, I mean low level or low energy density batteries. Okay. But in the case of batteries, definite Faraday reaction and counterbalanced by the another electrode. Both together contributes to the energy storage. But here, in the case of symmetric supercapacitors, identical reaction should take place. It compensates, and the energy density is not equal to that of the batteries.
Thank you, sir.
One can argue that the current lithium battery is a kind of a capacitor or supercapacitor. I would second that. Maybe 20 years before, the field of supercapacitor was not this much developed. So in conventional current lithium-ion battery, we have graphite as one electrode, that is anode, and lithium cobalt oxide as a cathode. Okay, they are not same electrodes. One is carbon, another one is oxide. One is graphite, another one is lithium cobalt oxide, layered oxides. I would say it's a capacitor, supercapacitor now, but 20 years before it was termed as a battery. So the thing is that now the energy density of such supercapacitors people are trying to increase it. by modifying the electrodes, changing the material, fabrication technique, changing the electrolyte. But still, I don't think it is possible to reach the energy density of the batteries. It is not possible. You can reach maximum, but it will not be equal to that of the energy density of the batteries. If you do so, it cannot be a supercapacitor. We can call it very much as a battery. We can call it as a very much as a battery. There are differences. That is the today's class. We have a distinction between battery and a supercapacitor. I hope I responded.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Anything else? We'll go ahead. So is my
Yes,
screen
sir.
clear? Okay. I think we stopped here last class. So it's one analogy that I usually use to distinguish between batteries and supercapacitors. Batteries are energy devices, supercapacitors are power devices. Battery can provide long energy like a marathon runner, whereas supercapacitors are relay runners. Quickly they release the energy. And they have uncomparable cycle life. I mean supercapacitors, whereas batteries, they have limited cycle life. So this is another analogy to understand the distinction between the capacitor, that is parallel plate capacitor, and EDLC or ultra capacitor and batteries. And by now, these terminologies should be familiar to you. Low energy density, it is relative. Low energy density, moderate energy density, and high energy densities. Conventional parallel plate capacitor, low energy density, very little energy only it can store. We know the reason now. It's only energy surface area. Moderate energy density, ultra capacitor, so it's an electrolytic capacitor, sometimes Faraday capacitors. But in the case of high energy batteries, there is a definite electrochemical reaction, oxidation reduction reaction. Very high power, low power, or very low power, low power. Cycle life, both these have very large. Compared to ultra capacitor, will have large cycle life. This will have little less, but very less here. It's like this. This water tank analogy is used to understand this energy and the power between these three devices. So conventional parallel plate capacitor is like this. The tap is large, but the tank is very, very low, very small. So it means it can store only little energy, but it can give up momentarily all of the energy. The rate of delivery of energy is nothing but power. Okay. So very little energy it can hold, but it can release all of a sudden. Very high power density. Whereas batteries, they have a very large tank, or can be considered as having a large tank. It can hold a lot of water. In this case, yeah, charge or energy. But the tap is very limited. Though it can hold large energy, but the delivery of or release of water or charge is only limited. But in this case, it is moderate. Compared to this tank is large. Compared to this tap is relatively large. So moderate energy density, moderate power. Compared to batteries higher, compared to parallel plate capacitor, less power. So compared to capacitor, high energy density. Compared to batteries, less energy. Okay, so I usually use this analogy to understand three devices: capacitor, ultra capacitor, and batteries. And what else are the difference between these capacitor and supercapacitor? So what do you see on the screen?
Charge discharge.
What is
Yes.
Okay, charge discharge curve. Can you explain, one of you, can you explain what you see in the charge discharge profile? Some features about these curves. Is both the curves are same? Or any difference? What is the difference? How the charge discharge curves of a battery? So battery is a discharged state here, getting charged. There is a long holding of charges at a constant potential, then it reaches the maximum potential. Then you connect the load. After a year drop, there is a drift, then stable discharge of the voltage for long time, then finally drifting, drained. Whereas supercapacitors constantly sloping during charging and discharging. What is the feature you are getting here?
The direction of charge and discharge is opposite, sir.
So charging and discharging of supercapacitor, charge discharge profiles of a supercapacitor is highly symmetric, like this. Charging and discharging curves of supercapacitors are highly symmetric. What we can infer from this highly symmetric charge discharge profile? What it would indicate? If you have a symmetric charging discharging profile for any device, what it would indicate generally? What is this charge discharge profile? Voltage of this device versus the time. So 0 time and roughly 350 seconds. This is roughly in between. 350 divided by 2, how much? 275? 175, sorry. 175. This is roughly 175. Charging takes about 175 seconds. Discharging takes 175 seconds. What does it mean? Or what do they mean? Very important point. They have charge acceptance 100% or Coulombic efficiency 100%. So it means the supercapacitor could hold and release 100% of charge. Again, we have to go back to the previous slide. Why it can give 100% charging and discharging supercapacitor, unlike batteries. You see here, this is not symmetric. Charging and discharging profile of a battery, they are not symmetric, but they have different feature. You can get high Coulombic efficiency for lithium-ion battery, and for some lead-acid battery, you can get maximum Coulombic efficiency 80%, or depth of discharge DOD can be 80% only. You cannot drain the battery beyond 80% in normal conditions, unless you have a deep discharge batteries. So the charge discharge profiles are not symmetric. Coulombic efficiency it will not be 100%, unlike supercapacitors. Supercapacitor can have 100% Coulombic efficiency. It means charging time and discharging times are nearly equal, 100% equal. So charging and discharging times are equal means we are talking about constant charging and discharging current. So charging capacity and discharging capacity are Energy that you input during charging and the energy that you can get during discharging are equal, 100% Coulombic efficiency, whereas they are not equal here. In the case of lithium-ion battery, you can get very high, 95% and above Coulombic efficiency you can get. All other batteries are less than that. Why supercapacitor can give Coulombic efficiency 100%? Again, it's related to materials and their features. There is no much change in the materials composition structure during the charging discharging in supercapacitors. Unlike there is a definite change in the materials composition and the structure in the batteries. Lead becomes lead sulfate, lead dioxide becomes lead sulfate, graphite becomes lithiated graphite, lithium cobalt oxide becomes delithiated lithium cobalt oxide. There is a composition change. Sometimes there is a material change, structure changing. It is not possible to getting back to its original structure and volume. So 100% Coulombic efficiency for batteries is not possible. But relatively, so compared to lead acid battery, lithium-ion battery can have. Maybe so compared to all other batteries, nickel metal hydride, nickel cadmium battery can give very high this constant voltage. What is this constant voltage? We named it. It's a plateau region. There is no plateau in supercapacitors, but there is a long plateau in batteries. That is advantage for the batteries, and it is a disadvantage for supercapacitor. It is always sloping. It's a dynamic. The power delivery in case of supercapacitor is dynamic. It is not constant. Whereas it is constant, at least in this duration. Highly constant, highly reliable. And it is dynamic, sloping. At each second, each minute, there is a change in the slope. Sloping. You can take up one or two numerical problems based on this charge-discharge profile. What you require here, current you require, time is there, mass is there. Estimate the capacitance from this charge-discharge profile. You can take up any two curves or any one curve also, roughly. Let's take charge-discharge curve, maybe 5 milliampere. If the charging and discharging times are 5 milliampere, estimate the charging and discharging capacities and Coulombic efficiency for any of the given two charge-discharge profiles. Or one is also fine, just to get to know the number. Use these formulas. Capacitance is equal to Q by V. Since we are planning to calculate specific capacitance, so you divide by the mass. M is mass, V is the voltage, Q is the charge, and this charge is nothing but, Q is nothing but I into T. I is current, T is discharge time, V is voltage window, and F is mass. Mass is 4 milligram, current I told you 5 milliampere, and T you can take this discharge time and up to this charging time. Maybe in this case, so maybe 10 times less or maybe double less, 10 milliampere, 10 milliampere. So total discharge time, charge discharge time is 200 seconds. You can assume roughly 100 seconds for charging and discharging. Give me some number. Give me some number. Estimate the Coulombic efficiency for this black charging discharging curve. Charging discharging times currents are 5 milliampere. Please try. So can you please work out?
Sir,
Yes, please.
sir, what is the active mass, sir?
Active mass is given, active mass is given 4 milligram.
Okay, sir.
Active mass is 4 milligram. Current is 5 milliamp. I into T divided by, yeah, some number is.
Sir, 40 Shoman 175, sir. C is equal to 243.
Okay. So basically it will be 5 into 175 divided by 0.9 into
4.
4. 4.
Yes, sir.
How much it is?
Sir, 243.
243. What will be the unit?
Sir,
Farads per gram.
yes, sir.
Farads per gram. Farads per gram. So if you do for red curve, definitely the capacitance will be less because charging discharging time is less.
For red
So
curve,
since
sir, it's 138, sir.
yes. So as the discharge current or charging current increases, there will be a decrease in the capacity or capacitance. We have already seen. As the C rate increases, capacity decreases, which relates. There is a plot which relates capacity or capacitance versus the C rate. Do you remember that plot? First unit. Pécourt plot or log-log plot. Capacity versus C rate. For an ideal energy storage system, irrespective of the C rate, the capacity should be constant. But practically no, it declines. As the C rate increases, capacity decreases because the movement of ions or the mobility of ions are not cooperating, will not be cooperating for charging and discharging at high currents discharge. Hence, you lose Coulombic efficiency. Okay. So one distinction between the supercapacitor and the battery is, so the charge discharge profiles of supercapacitors are highly symmetric, whereas batteries are plateau. They are not symmetric and they have a plateau region. The slope is dynamic and whereas it is constant. So if you calculate the slope for this curve and here, it will be always same, but it is dynamic. But this plateau region is plateau potential is desirable for a practical applications. Okay. Coulombic efficiency can be as high as 100% in the case of supercapacitor, whereas not so in the case of batteries. What else? The distinction between battery and supercapacitor. So I don't know whether you have heard about cyclic voltammogram. Cyclic voltammogram. So it means you take 2 electrodes, preferably 3 electrodes, one working electrode, one counter electrode, and a reference electrode, and scan the potentials between some region. Maybe in the case of ruthenium oxide, they have scanned from 0.2 to 1.4 at particular rate, scan rate, then record the current response. The curve that you are going to get is known as cyclic voltammogram. And the technique which will do this experiment is known as cyclic voltammetry. Or, so you take lead in lead chloride and start scanning the potentials, and you see some features. In this case, there are some humps. There is one small hump, there is another little larger hump, there is a small hump here, and the reverse also there. Here, there is a large peak. I don't call this as a hump, there is a peak. There is a forward peak and a backward peak. This is characteristic of any battery material. What is battery material? Battery material should undergo some redox reaction, reduction oxidation reaction, whether it is a zinc or lead dioxide, ruthenium oxide, nickel oxide, or any other sulfide or anything for that matter. They will release one or more electrons and they can come back. When it releases, we call them as oxidation. When it accepts, we call it as a reduction process. We see oxidation peak and reduction peak. Very good tool to identify whether the material is a battery material or non-battery material. This is the characteristic of battery material or battery. Maybe lead as a battery. This is the characteristic of EDLC, cyclic voltammogram characteristic of EDLC. So for example, you take graphite or carbon, take some solution, maybe sulfuric acid, KOH or sodium sulfate, 2 electrode or 3 electrode, doesn't matter for me, and you start scanning and record the current response. What do we see here? Forward, backward. Forward, backward. And a nearly rectangular shape we are getting, and there are no significant peaks, unlike here. Unlike here. There is some hump, there is a peak in the battery material, but there are no such peaks. This is the diagnosis or the characteristic of a Faraday supercapacitance, EDLC materials. EDLC material. Because there is no reaction. This current, if at all increased, is because of the charge accumulation or charge separation between the negative and the positive plates. Between the negative and the positive plates or electrodes. But in the case of redox capacitor or pseudo capacitors, the cyclic voltammogram is more like battery feature. And you see here, we see peaks similar to that of the batteries. What these peaks indicate or implies? These peaks imply that there is a redox reaction taking place. That is why these type of supercapacitors are called as redox capacitor or also called as Faraday capacitors. These peaks corresponding to oxidation reduction of these materials. PANI. What is PANI? Polyaniline, a polymer, a conducting polymer, well-known conducting polymer. And it is having at least 2 peaks, reversible, highly reversible. And you improve its performances by having a composite with the graphene oxide, reduced graphene oxide, functionalized reduced graphene oxide. And you take the cyclic voltammogram at some potentials at a particular scan rate, and you see the increased peak current. You can increase the capacitance or charge storage of polyaniline or a polymer by blending with the composite, by blending with the reduced graphene oxide or graphene oxide, for example. Higher the peak current, higher the charge storage, you can have it. So this is another great distinction between the battery and the supercapacitors. So batteries, they have a peaks in cyclic voltammogram. In EDLC, there are no such peaks. Rectangular. Whereas pseudocapacitors is more like batteries. They have some peaks. More than one peak indicates that there is a more than one redox reaction taking place. And I think you can go through this. proper or more distinction between the capacitor and the batteries. High power density, relatively poor, less. Okay, so internal resistance is due to electrolyte active material itself. Cycle life can be larger, cycle life can be less. No activation polarization, but there is a activation polarization. There is a Faraday reaction. No Faraday reaction. Less charge storage, large charge storage. This is what we have seen. Sloping charging and discharging curve. It is highly constant. CV curve will have no peak here, but will have peak here. Charging discharging times, it varies from seconds to minutes, but here minutes to hours. Coulombic efficiency high, Coulombic efficiency very low, relatively low, very low. I think these numbers you can note it. So the mass of battery significantly is very large. You will not be able to lift with one hand lead acid battery, very huge mass. A 7Ah battery or 11Ah battery, it's not simply possible to lift with one hand. Weighs 10 kgs, 15 kgs, at least 5-6 kgs. Whereas supercapacitors or capacitors, they have masses in few grams, 1 to 2 grams. 1 to 2 grams. Energy density low, very high energy density. Power density very high, low power density. Operating voltage is very specific to batteries. Lead acid battery 2 voltage. Lithium ion battery 3.5 voltage, nominal voltage or OCV. But voltage of supercapacitor depends on the dielectric material. So it can be tuned 2.3 to even 800 volt, very large voltage capacitors. Even 6000 volt possible. But it will discharge momentarily, few seconds, few minutes. Cycle life more than 1 lakh time, but restricted to only hundreds to 1000 cycles. 100 to 1000 cycles. So generally, energy density of a supercapacitor we call in watt per second, watt second. But in batteries we call in terms of watt hour. If you want to call in watt hour for supercapacitors, the energy density will be very, very low. Why it is low, we have seen already. Here, the definite Faraday reaction, both anode and cathode, is the reason for high energy density. But in supercapacitors, especially in EDC, there is no redox reaction, and the charge storage or the energy storage is by charge separation and depends on the surface area. This is another number you can note. Charging discharging time, typically in hours for batteries. In case of lead acid battery, it requires 6 hours to 8 hours for complete charging. But whereas supercapacitor, ultracapacitor, in seconds it can pick up the charge. Conventional capacitor, milliseconds. Charging and discharging time. Energy density tends to 100 whatever per kg. But supercapacitor once 1 watt-hour per kg or 0.1 watt-hour per kg. But specific power, thousands to 10,000 watt per kg. Whereas specific power is very, very low. Very, very low here. Charge discharge efficiency generally high for capacitors, relatively low for batteries. Okay, so I'll take this next class. This is How will you characterize the supercapacitor? What is supercapacitor? We know now how it works. What are the types? We know what are the characteristics or features. We know how it is different from the batteries. We know. Let's see what are the parameters that are required or those are required to characterize the batteries. We have already seen it. The first and the foremost is capacitance. EDLC or redox capacitor, the capacitance is Q by V. Q is I into T or scan rate. So capacitance is I into T divided by V into M. So measure in farads per milligram, farads per gram. We have been talking about energy or energy density. The specific energy of a supercapacitor can be expressed by this equation. Of CV square, unit is watt-hour per kg. Of C is capacitance, capacitance we know here, and V is the voltage, operating voltage. And the maximum power we know, this one I into V. Maximum power similar to the batteries, V square by 4R. And this ESR includes the resistance of the capacitor also. Equivalent series resistance also includes the supercapacitor resistance, V square by 4R. These three parameters are used to characterize the supercapacitors. Of course, cycle life, Coulombic efficiency can also be used. Yeah, I think this problem we have already seen it. So charging, discharging capacity, if you know, it is possible to estimate the Coulombic efficiency in a given active mass. And we can take up this one to calculate the energy density. You have been given this charging, discharging profile recorded at a different current density, 0.1 ampere per gram, 1 ampere per gram, 2 ampere, 3 ampere, 4 ampere. And you know roughly the charging discharging time. Construct the Ragone plot or Ragone plot for this supercapacitor. I think I must have enlarged on. Yes, here. So charge discharge profiles of a supercapacitor recorded at different current densities have been given. You are asked to construct a Ragone plot. It may not be it is possible. Anyways, it will be time consuming if you go on doing that. If any one of you can explain how will you go about it, that's fine, we can move on. So you have been given charging, discharging profiles at a different current densities. You are asked to construct a Ragone plot. Or Ragone plot. So at low current density 0.1, 0.5 ampere per gram. So total charging, discharging time is about 3,500. Assume 50%. At 1 ampere per gram, charging time is 1,500 seconds. Assume 50%. Maybe 500 here, maybe 200 here, 100 here. We'll be having current density, discharge time. Current density 0.1, discharge time, some number. Current density 1 ampere per gram and some discharge time you have. 2 ampere discharge time, 3 ampere discharge time, 4 ampere discharge time. Now this discharge time and current density will give you what? Q, charge you will get. Charge you will get. This is ampere per gram, and the time is seconds. So ampere second is coulomb. Charge you get. So coulomb per gram you get. You divide by the voltage. What is the voltage here? 0.5 volt. So you are going to get directly capacitance. Now you have the capacitance. Use this formula, energy formula of CV square. C just now you have calculated. Multiply with the V square. V is 0.5. V square is 0.5 square. Capacity into V square. You are going to get energy. You convert that into grams into kilograms. You get energy density. You divide that energy density by the discharge time. You are going to get power. Then plot energy density versus power density for a particular discharge current. Then next discharge current. Then next. Then try to see how the curve will be. That curve is the Ragone plot or Ragone plot. What will happen? How the curve will look for this discharge profile, roughly. Whether the energy density and the power density will remain constant at different current densities, or how the curve will be. Where you can expect more power and where you can expect more energy, at what current density. Hello? Okay, let me be very specific. What would be the rough magnitude if you estimate at 0.1 ampere per gram? What would be the rough magnitude of energy density and power density if we estimate at 10 times less, nearly 10 times less, that is about 4 ampere per gram, which will give at which condition or at which current density you will get more energy or less energy, more power or less power. Yeah, someone started responding. It's obvious, lower the current density, higher the energy. Lower the current density, higher the energy. Maybe higher the power density. Higher the current density, lower the energy, more power you may get. So it will be sloping like this. It will be sloping like this. This is current density is indirectly telling about the C rate. High C rate, low energy, but you get more power. That's the Ragone plot. You can work out. You can work out. It's like this. I have here. Yes. So we have three materials here. Reduced graphene oxide, nickel manganese layered double hydroxide, and the combination of nickel manganese LDH with the reduced graphite, some compositions. You see here, this is Ragone plot. This whole plot is Ragone plot. Energy density versus power density. 10,000 watt, 100 watt, 1 watt hour per kg, 100 watt hour per kg. So low power, high energy. High power, low energy. High energy, low power. High power, low energy. It should have been ideal. That is according to Pecot plot. But no, the ions will not cooperate. The ions will not cooperate for movement of further mobilities if it is subjected to very fast discharging or charging. So we'll stop now. So theories of double layer and how will you practically construct a supercapacitor? Maybe we can take up in the next class. So if anybody would like to add anything or make some comments, clarification, you can do so.
Sir,
Yes, Nafis.
sir, there is some issue with the stipend related issue matter. Can we talk, sir?
Yeah, so let's see whether anybody else is having anything on the subject. If not, we can